Divorce is one of the most challenging transitions in life, and without the right guidance, it can quickly turn into a disaster. Welcome to Dodging Divorce Disasters, the show that helps you navigate the legal, financial, and emotional pitfalls of divorce before they happen. Each episode, we sit down with top professionals in the divorce community to hear real-life war stories, cautionary tales from the trenches of divorce. But we won't just leave you with the horror stories. Our experts will break down exactly what went wrong and, more importantly, how you can avoid making the same mistakes. Whether you're in the early stages of separation, deep in the process, or supporting someone through it, we're here to help you move forward with clarity, confidence, and fewer regrets. We're your hosts, Lori Hawkins and Pam Abarashet. We are local experts in the areas of real estate and lending, and we're so excited to be sharing these incredible professionals with you. Let's dive in.
Today, we are here with Jessica Garcia. We are so thrilled that you are here with us. Thank you so much for being here. Now, you kind of like have a hat with many, many feathers in it, right? You are a mediator. You are also a coach. You are a financial planner, like a CDFA.
Right.
And I would love to know kind of how all of these came together. Well, tell us a little bit about what you do, the different hats that you wear, and how this all kind of comes together to help you better serve your clients.
Well, my work is my favorite subject, so thank you. I'm so pleased to be here with you. And my background is in working with different types of clients in banking. I spent 22 years at Bank of America and predecessor banks, and it hit me one day that I needed to help women become more proactive with their money. Really, that's what it was. And I left my job, and I just started a business. And it started helping women focus on their finances, generally speaking. But a family law attorney asked me to help her clients. And when I went in to help those clients, the feeling that I would get of satisfaction of helping when they would get what we were talking about and could articulate it back to me was just amazing. And so she actually is who suggested I become a CDFA, because she said to me, you're already doing the work and that will allow you to testify in court. And so what I did was, so this was like 2016. And through that work, I started helping clients, and then was going through my own divorce. And so in trying to help distance my personal experience from how I better served my clients, I also became a divorce coach, because I wanted to have an infrastructure to help them sort of walk through that process. Because divorce, you can't go over it or under it. You've got to go through it. And so that sort of shifted how I worked with my clients, of course, from a financial perspective, but also helping to support them, whether it was sometimes role playing even. And as I did that work, my clients would say to me, will you talk to my husband now? Now that we've finished, can we bring him in and have a conversation about money? And I started saying, yes, once we're done, as a CDFA, I can serve as a financial neutral. And so that led me to working with couples. And I learned some things. You always talk to them because otherwise you're hearing one and hearing the other. And so that started early on, that I talked to you both at the same time and communicate. And so that led me to become a mediator. And so I have a lot of feathers in my hat, but I always have them. They're always a part of me. And I also have a master's in business. So sometimes my clients who are coming into a lot of funds that are in their name only, no longer part of an estate, they think about the aspirations that they had before they entered into their marriage. And that has led us to create business plans and have them start a business. And so that's actually quite fun as well. So every divorce is different. Every journey is different. And so that's sort of been my own journey in helping others, because it's cathartic to me to help them.
Nice. Now, let me ask you one thing before we move on to a different topic. Speaking of you being a mediator, You are
Yes,
not an attorney, right?
I
You
am
can be a
not.
mediator and not an attorney, which means you can do what?
So that's an excellent question. Thank you. Because as a mediator, I am trained through the state, but the difference that I bring to the table is the financial aspect. So when I work with a couple, we are diving into the details of their finances. So you in North Carolina, you can be a mediator without being an attorney, and in fact, if you are an attorney, you can't be their attorney. And so my work with my clients is to help them gain clarity as to what the makeup of the marital estate is, um, transparency, because we talk about income, we talk about expenses, his and hers, theirs, and then together we work through the numbers, and the result of after a few sessions is a memorandum of understanding. And so that document lists out what they've agreed upon and certain information related to their marriage, date of marriage, minor children, date of separation, all that. And then they take that document to an attorney to draft a separation agreement. And so the clients that I work with in mediation don't have an attorney. They're just starting to figure this out. And I also have collaborative training that I've been a part of. So I have a background that can help them, and now an infrastructure as being a mediator to help them sort of navigate this peacefully, respectfully.
Right. And you can be, if someone just wanted to talk to you about their, like if they're not going through a divorce, let's say, and they just wanted to talk to you about their finances, as a CDFA, you could do that. You don't only deal just with divorced couples, although you do specialize in that.
Yeah,
Is that correct or no?
I would say I can, and I have, but I have a soft spot in my heart for anyone going through divorce. So that is where I focus. So much so
Okay.
that I don't have my securities licenses anymore, and don't sell financial products, investment products, insurance products. My clients' results in terms of their understanding of their financial picture, the language of money that sometimes is lacking. Um, my goal is ultimately that the children feel a less destructive divorce.
I love that. Well, thank you for kind of giving us the overview of what you do. We love hearing all the different aspects that come into all these different professions surrounding divorce. And before we get into the meat and potatoes of why we're here, which is the divorce disaster, we always kind of love to talk about a fun fact about our speaker. So we know that you are a scuba diver, which I am too, which is super fun. And we also
I'm
just
not.
found out right before the call that you are a new artist this year. Tell us more
Well,
about that.
I used to love painting in years past, and a major relocation made me forget that. And 12 years later, a friend invites me to this Dolly Parton birthday party, and I had the best time painting. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've missed this. And so I have
Oh,
been painting on my during my free time, and I have it is an investment, I will say, to have all your supplies and the space. But it's been a lot of fun. I've had interest in my art for purchasing and for commissions, but that's less fun for me. I kind of like to do the free flow, and if you like it, great. But if I'm thinking about it's for someone, it makes it less fun. But most recently, I'm painting a mural to put on a building in downtown Raleigh, so I'm really excited about that. Bit of a nervous Nelly about it
are
too,
you
but
That is
serious?
so cool.
yeah, yes.
Oh my gosh. Is it like, is it a big one? Like the
The
side of the
mural,
building?
it's well, the
Yeah.
mural. I'm actually this. It's been a process of learning because I am actually painting it on a 4x6 piece of wood to mount it in this area on the
Oh,
building that's sort of framed, and I'm actually painting both sides because we're going to switch it in about 6 months. once it gets
Oh,
put
cool.
there. So, but I had to do all kinds of things, prime the wood and um, put polyurethane on it. That was quite an experience. And then once I'm done, I'll have to varnish it all to protect it. So, but I love it.
Cool.
It's for me
That's neat.
a really, yeah, it's a good escape from the work that I do. That as much as I love it, it's important. Self care is really important, and sort of distancing myself from it. And this has become how I do that.
And Pam, I don't mean to jump in, but there was something I forgot because you mentioned Cary, North Carolina. I
Hmm.
didn't ask you the region that you work in because you mentioned
Oh,
Charlotte and
thank you.
Cary. Do you work both areas?
I do. I grew up in Charlotte, and then I was relocated with work with Bank of America to Raleigh, and moved to Cary in order to do that, and then moved back to Charlotte. But then my daughter didn't want to leave. Finish. She wanted to finish high school in Raleigh, so I've just been back and forth. So, but honestly, the
Okay.
majority of my work is virtual. So I can be anywhere. Sometimes I'm at the beach working, but it's
Yeah.
Charlotte and Cary and surrounding areas. But also I have clients from
Okay.
Greensboro, Winston, Wilmington, the state of North
All right.
Carolina.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah, thank you for asking that.
So, we have you here to tell us about a divorce disaster. So, if you can
Mm,
share with us a disaster that you have experienced
mm.
and also share how our listeners can avoid that disaster for themselves.
Yeah, thank you. Because fortunately, I can help clients avoid disasters. So sometimes a case might come to me that's in disaster mode. And one that came to mind
Mhm.
for me was a client who originally was brought in to determine if she should keep the marital home or not. So it was just one question. We were going to dive into the finances for that. But working with a CDFA or me, a CDFA working with a client, is like going to the doctor. The doctor's going to ask you 32 questions before they give you a prescription. And so, much like that, as a CDFA, I can't look at one asset in a silo. I need to look at everything to understand and make sure that keeping the marital home is the best decision for you, because the math doesn't lie. And so, in looking at that and digging a little deeper, what had been two checks that were offered in several $100,000, maybe totaling like $700,000 for my client as a settlement, and then possibly some equity in the marital home. Um, Through the work of diving into the documents and assessing what was there to be divided, the reality became that this estate, which seemed to be at the offset maybe $2 million, ended up being about $9 million. And my client didn't know exactly the number, but fortunately, she was able to get her hands on important documents that we were going through. And I like to ask my clients for 3 years of tax returns, for example. And you can tell some things in the tax returns because they tell a story. I love tax returns. And typically, when you go out 3 years, you see information that maybe 1 year out gives you some indication that something's going on. And so, getting the right
Hmm.
documentation. Fortunately, with the attorney, we were able to get subpoenas, but my client had enough information and was able to, we were able to dive into details that helped to figure out, all right, so where do we need to get these subpoenas from, right? Because that's as important. Um, and so, yeah, so in the end, it ended up that my client was quite pleased. Now, the assets had been spent, so that's part of why the awareness wasn't there, but they were spent post separation. And so we were
Hmm.
able to come up with an arrangement that helped my client first um, know, you know, what her future looked like based on where she was landing. But also part of this process included keeping the marital home or not. And something that I ask all my clients to do when there is a home like that, we need to talk to a specialist in the real estate and lending space from a divorce perspective, because I didn't want her to agree to keep this marital home if she wasn't going to be able to qualify for the mortgage that was needed, because there was a lot of equity. It wasn't a big mortgage, but we needed to structure her separation agreement in a way that she could meet the qualifications that the lender had for getting this mortgage. So in her case, it was she needed an application have 3 months of having received spousal support. And by the time of the closing, that spousal support needed to continue for at least 36 months. So we crafted the language the attorney wrote into the agreement was just that basically we needed at least, well, we went with like 45 months of spousal support just to cover everything. And so, so that's the importance of first getting the right documents. Like, you don't know what you don't know when you're going through divorce, because many times you've not been through it before. And so getting in touch with someone that can help you put that information together and then do the analysis is what does it all mean, right? So a divorce team becomes really important, especially when there's a lot of assets.
I totally agree. And I actually was just talking to somebody who they've been married for a little while, they're going through a divorce, and they have to get equity out of their marital home. And one spouse is using an attorney and the other one isn't. And they were like, yeah, well, we kind of had an agreement. Like, we've always had our finances separate. And so this spouse that I was talking to has to take some equity out, and the other one is getting equity, and they're just like not going to look at their separate finances. And I was like, I mean, if you want to do that, you can, but like, what if your spouse has a $500,000 net worth, and then you've got $100,000 net worth, and then you're going to be taking money out to pay equity too? Like, I would really encourage you to talk to at least a CDFA. Maybe you don't get another attorney involved, but like, have somebody else look at this for you, because you could be giving up a lot.
There are those occasions where I feel like people try to be too amicable. You know, I mean, they don't want to rock the boat. They just want to get through it and be done with it. And they're just like, okay, just whatever. Let's just do it. And they can miss out on some stuff. So yeah, that's a great story. I'm sure she was very happy.
And you can be amicable. You just have to trust but verify. That's what I tell my clients.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But verify. Yeah.
Well, a lot of times when we're talking with people in the divorce niche, they even have a little deeper niche that they kind of concentrate on. Do you have one of those per se? What can you tell us about that?
Well, it happened accidentally, as becoming a CDFA did. It started with women who had set aside career aspirations and dedicated their life to supporting a spouse in their career aspirations, and then also raising a family. And so a lot of my clients will say to me, I never worried about the money before, because it's always there. And so they don't know if there's a mortgage. And so sometimes that does happen. And so I tend to work with clients that need help in understanding what's a 401k, what is escrow. And so that's sort of fun for me, empowering them, because I believe that if you educate a woman, you educate generations to come. And so I love the aspect of helping someone gain knowledge that they didn't have before. Having said that, as I did that work for several years, I started packaging my services a little differently. Having a long case really can take its toll. A 12-month, 18-month divorce case is really heavy for me. So I wanted to shift my mix of business. And what I did was I developed this VIP day. And what happened with that, I got 6-figure professional women, more like these executive clients who were the primary breadwinner, and were getting divorced or contemplating divorce, but wanted to be fair because their spouse had been a stay-at-home dad, for example, or because the income, there was quite a disparity in income. And so I have another segment now that are women that they have the spreadsheets, they know the information. They just need someone with that critical thinking, because the reality is that it's hard to see the painting when you're hanging in the frame. And so when it's you, it's a different perspective. And so bringing someone like me in, and so we'll spend a very intense day of diving through what the income looks like, what the expenses are, what assets are there, and what debt. So those are the elements of your financial picture. But then taking a further step and looking at cash flow projections. So based on what you're contemplating, this is what you're going to look like in 5, 10, 20 years. And so what happens is the path for those two client segments looks a little different, but ultimately we end up in the same place. We run the projections and we help come up with some scenarios for settlement. But yeah, I'd say those are my two. And then, of course, couples now. I love working with couples because I'm comfortable in the uncomfortable. And I've been told this before, that I'm comfortable broaching uncomfortable subjects. But I love it because that's where you get that's where the work is done, but that's where you get the good results and the growth and the communication. And I always tell them, how do you want to feel when you look back on how you handled this experience together, and how will your children remember it? And so that's kind of 3 segments.
Yeah.
You had also mentioned that you are a financial planner, not a financial advisor. So our listeners probably don't know the difference between those two. Can you talk more about that?
Yes, thank you for that question, because I am a certified divorce financial analyst. That's the actual certification, and we're called divorce financial planners. And so, keyword analyst, right? As a CDFA, we do the analysis. We don't tell you what to do. We say, if you do this, then this, right? So we use financial planning tools to help clients assess their best options. Now, as a financial advisor, which the majority of CDFAs are financial advisors as well, I don't sell investment accounts. I don't sell any insurance products. I don't sell anything but what's in here. And so that is the biggest difference. That as a divorce financial planner, I'm helping you work through the details, prepare to be a better client for your attorney, because guess what? That saves you money, right? If you are well-versed in what you need, what you have, and you can articulate that to your attorney, you're focused on the business of divorce, not the story of divorce. And so, for me, that is the key differentiator between being a financial advisor that is a CDFA and a CDFA that is a divorce financial planner that's helping you figure this out.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes really good sense. On the other end, if they want you to do their mediation, do they have to? I know you kind of bring your knowledge of being a CDFA to the table.
Yes.
But I just want to make sure that when somebody watches this, they know exactly what they can hire you for,
So I have had, and it started where I was working with clients and then became their financial neutral. But the key is that we are done. I am no longer working with that client individually. I have to become neutral, which can be uncomfortable for a client. And I tell them, I could ask some questions, because the truth is you're only getting one side of the story, right? So when you bring the other party in, things look a little different. So I tend to,
Right.
when I speak to someone up front, I if you're thinking about mediation, then I need both spouses on the call. But if you're just looking for yourself,
Okay.
then we're fine. I can help you. But I do have, I'd like to address that up front. Now, I will say that I've been brought in on collaborative cases. And so I am a neutral. I'm not working with both. I'm actually not a neutral. I'm working with just the wife because the disparity in knowledge. And so the work I do is to help boost and identify. And to your point earlier, sometimes it's acquiescing. It's not really that it's so amicable. It's just somebody's acquiescing. And I can see it in the numbers and help to boost her knowledge and confidence in this negotiation. But in terms of your question,
Okay. I think,
the mediation should be mediation for me. I try to keep it separate. Was that a little bit clear for you?
that clears it up. Yeah, definitely.
But
Well,
ultimately
what is
reach
some
out.
practical advice? Like if someone is going through a divorce?
One of the things I find, and I find myself saying it more and more, is that you know more than you realize. And so what I find is sometimes someone will say to me, I don't have everything. I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. Well, think about what you do know. Don't focus so much on what you don't know. Begin by tracking your expenses. Begin by taking action, because action conquers fear. And so divorce can feel very scary, and it is. It's a big adjustment in your life. And so take a little bit of control back by identifying, okay, what do I know? What do I spend on a daily basis, on a monthly basis? Do we have a mortgage? What do we know about that? And so begin to get yourself centered, your mind centered on what you do know, not what you don't know. That would be one thing.
That's good advice.
One of the things I also like to say is for women to develop and maintain an ability to earn income. I wish I could go to bridal shows and say this to all the women that are about to get married, because that is so important, to develop and maintain an ability to earn income.
Yeah, that's really good advice.
If you're contemplating divorce, begin to collect financial documents that represent those 4 elements of your financial picture: income, expenses, assets, liabilities. But if there are bank statements that you need to get your hands on, remember that each month you lose a month. So go into the accounts and save those on your laptop, because if it's 24 months, get 24, and each month be uploading, because you're going to be losing the oldest one.
No,
That's
good
really
advice.
great advice. Final question for you is, what questions should people be asking a CDFA who they're thinking of hiring?
I think a very important question is, do you sell financial products?
Agreed.
Because how neutral are you, right? How objective are you in this process? If ultimately I'm just saying this separately to you, but if someone's in it to just get assets under management, perhaps the objectivity might be different than if they're not focused on that. That's all I'll say about that. I think it's important to understand the fee structure. Some CDFAs charge per hour. Some CDFAs have a package. So just know what you're getting into and what that includes. But more than anything, and this is with working with any divorce professional, make sure you have a good connection. Make sure you feel good about this, because you want someone on your team that you can communicate with, that you can be open with, and that will help you move through this process.
Yeah, I think that's important for anything too. Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. And that's something I see people's finances all the time, and people will ask about financial advisors and stuff like that. And that's my personal piece of advice too, is like, well, depending on what you're looking for, I would really recommend looking for someone who charges you by the hour for financial advice versus somebody who's going to be trying to sell you life insurance and investment products. And I think that's especially important when you are going through a divorce, to make sure that that person you're talking to is truly invested in your best outcome and not gaining income for themselves.
Yeah.
I agree.
And some CDFAs, we have packages. So not all of us are hourly anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
It's good, fun work.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe I shouldn't say hourly, but has a fee
Yeah.
for their time versus
Yeah,
selling you products.
Right.
Exactly. How's their revenue? How do they make their income, right? Is it fees, or is it they keep getting their monthly fee for the investments that they hold?
Right.
Yeah.
Commissions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. We loved having you on here and getting to hear a little bit more about you. We will put your website and contact information on here, but where can our listeners find you?
That is the best way, brainstormingwomen.com. I have a mechanism on my website for you to schedule a consultation. It's the most efficient way to do this, to get on my calendar. I also have this office hours with Jessica, which if you just have like a burning question or two or three, we can dive into something for an hour. Of course, it's no prep, no planning, just conversation and critical thinking, and that's been kind of fun. But yeah, brainstormingwomen.com is the best way. And for my mediation, it's empoweredseparation.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We loved having you and appreciate your time.
Very
Thank
much
you.
so. Thanks so much, Jessica.
Enjoyed it. My pleasure. Bye-bye, ladies.
This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Information contained herein is not legal advice. If you need legal advice, please seek an attorney.